Hello, everyone. My name is Sean McCaffery, and I lead the QuickBooks Solution Provider program here at Intuit. And welcome to our panel. Today we're going to discuss the customer success journey with 3 of our QuickBooks Solution Providers. And it's great to see you all in a virtual way. And we hope that you and your family are staying safe and healthy, and that we'll get to see you soon in the near future. So our QuickBooks Solution Providers play a vital role in driving and promoting sales across the QuickBooks ecosystem. They also provide value-add services around completing the Intuit solution. Some of these services include app integration, data migration, training, and onboarding enablement that complete one customer experience that's consistent. So thank you for joining us today in our panel discussion. As I'll be moderating, we have 3 very strategic partners that are very active in the emerging mid-market space. So what does the mid-market mean? These are customers between 10 and 150 employees that are looking for unique services around QBO, QBO Advance, and enterprise solutions, as well as our additional attach on payments and payroll. These panelists all have deep understanding of the mid-market and each bring a business perspective on the customer journey with QuickBooks. So let's get started. I'd like to introduce all of our panelists, and I would also like them to explain what addresses and makes their businesses unique. So let's start with Marjorie.
Thanks, Sean. I'm so excited for today. Well, I'm Marjorie Adams. I'm the CEO of Fourlane. We are a firm out of Austin, Texas. I used to say that we were unique because we were a remote firm, but now everybody's remote, so that doesn't quite apply as much anymore. We primarily have focused from the very beginning on QuickBooks enterprise clients. So we looked at people who had revenues above $2 million, and what you're saying is the emerging mid-market. My background, I came from manufacturing in private industry, and I had general ledger books that were actual paper books that I had to work with, and took that company and investigated different products like that were considered for small business back then, right? I considered us a small business. And I went and I got us set up on QuickBooks, and I back entered data for 2 years. I learned a ton. And then I brought in a pro advisor, which I didn't really understand what that was at the time. I knew that I wanted to be a teacher, and here there was this person coming to teach me how our books were set up pretty much incorrectly because I did it myself. And I learned a ton from them, went back and re-entered that data, and then decided to take that learning experience of having a consultant come in and teach me and branch off from it. So I went to work for a CPA firm. That firm wanted to focus on dynamics. I saw this market of enterprise growing, right? There's a whole lot of businesses in this over 2 million, under 50 million market, and started Fourlane down here in Austin, Texas. The thing that makes us unique, I think, as a company is that we have a lot of clients. We learn the most from our customers. And so the fact that we have seen so many customers over the years, it allows us to learn, right? What are their processes and how can we pick up? How did they figure out how to make QuickBooks work? And that has been something that has really made us unique over the years. Just a lot of wealth of customers. So that's it for me.
Great. Hector?
Yes, hi. Thank you for inviting me. Very excited to be here. So I started my practice about 12 years ago. I started as strictly a bookkeeping practice. Me and my wife pretty much set up a business because our daughter was born and we were looking for a way to work remotely and balance, work and life at the same time. So we found the Pro Advisor program. We became Pro Advisors, and we started supporting QuickBooks Desktop remotely, primarily as what we did for a living. This is before QuickBooks Online was even on the radar for most small businesses. So as time went by, I fell more and more in love with the product itself. I fell in love with the teaching aspect of it. I loved teaching our customers how to run their own books much more that I loved. I like that much better than cleaning up their messes, right? So we kind of had this dual practice that grew at the same time, where half of our business was training and consulting and helping people run their own books, and the other half is to grow our bookkeeping and standard run-of-the-mill tax practice. So that's where we are right now. We're based out of Miami, Florida. We have clients all over the world. Everyone in our staff is bilingual, Spanish and English. So we also enjoy clients from South America and Spanish-speaking clients all over the United States. What makes our firm unique, I would say, is that similar to Marjorie, we are teachers and students at heart. So we walk into a client with genuine curiosity of how that business was built, how they make things work, what makes them successful, what has led to failures or chaos, and we walk in just genuinely wanting to learn. And in the process of learning and helping, we walk out of every engagement with the question, where is an opportunity to teach? So what can we leave behind? And I think that our clients appreciate that approach, where we want to learn and are curious, and then walk out making sure that we left something behind and we taught them something.
That's awesome. Thank you. And over to you, Jim.
Hi, I'm Jim Wells. I'm a longtime pro advisor, QuickBooks Solution Provider, probably the old guy on this panel. But I've been around, I guess, 17 years now as a solopreneur. So I've kind of always had the interest in basically running my practice by myself without really an interest in growing a large practice of accounting or consulting. So I've maintained a solopreneur career for 17 years, but I've always had an interest in technology and emerging technology, especially. And I think the timing of that technology is important to get right. So I guess over the last 3 years, I've kind of gone into another direction with my practice, where I've co-branded and basically invested in what's called a integration platform as a service product. Read a while ago from a Gartner article that integration platform as a service, or IPaaS for short, is going to be emerging technologies for the mid-market for the next foreseeable future, and that those type technologies are going to transform how a lot of businesses operate. And so, fortunately, I have one in my backyard here in Louisville, Kentucky. So I was able to work with these guys. They've been in the healthcare business for 7+ years. They've done a lot with the healthcare community, dealing with integrations, and specifically healthcare integrations. And basically in the last 2.5 years, I've worked with those guys to combine our interest to bring them over into the mid-market. So that's kind of what makes us a little unique, is we're, instead of really focused on services, we're really focused on our platform right now.
Yeah, and a typical mid-market customer, there's a lot of users accessing the data. They have more complex needs, obviously, advanced inventory, advanced reporting, third-party application integration, but they don't necessarily want to pay for features that they don't need. So in saying that, Marjorie, tell us, what are the unique needs of the mid-market in the customer journey that you've experienced?
Well, first of all, that's one thing that we do focus on with our clients a lot, is about how they should be utilizing the software that they're paying for, right? I know you said that maybe they don't think that they should be paying for software that they're not needing, but a lot of the thing, even with Intuit at its core, is teaching businesses through their software how they should consider running their business. And so I think that is a good takeaway from this too, is just make sure, even if you don't think you need it, if it's in the software, that means that other companies are using it. And that might be something that you might want to consider using, right? Because there's a reason that it's in this product that millions of companies use. So that's one thing.
About what do you think the unique needs that you found in the customer journey, in how your engagement with customers in the mid-market? What makes them unique?
Sure. So first of all, as Hector was saying, we definitely learn a ton from the mid-market space and what they bring to the table. Our customer base, most of the time, is coming to us for a solution to a problem, right? There's some kind of change in their business that they're going through. So they're making a move in software that is a big, especially right now, That is a big change that we see people have. They go into business and they talk to some of their friends that are big businesses. And they say, what software do you use? And maybe they make a jump that's too big for them in the beginning. So we see a lot of people going through change. And that's where we hone in the mid-market, going through data migration or conversion services, moving in or out of different softwares. And then also too, sometimes people are just preparing to make that change, right? So they think that QuickBooks is meant for small business. They haven't been keyed in yet on all the things. My favorite phrase to say is, you don't know what you don't know about QuickBooks, because they've just been taught this little bitty piece. And we can help them take advantage of all the things that they should be using in the software. So data migration, getting set up appropriately in the software, and then using tools that we have, like Jim's tool and other tools out there available for automation and for allowing people to grow themselves, right? We're not focused on data entry anymore. We're not focused on doing mundane tasks. We're focused on where are we doing things every day that we're doing over and over and over again. So we can teach a computer how to do that versus having to have us do that. And that'll free up our minds to be more strategic. So hopefully that.
Excellent point. No, great observation. Hector?
I would say my answer is the same as Marjorie's. And what I'll add on to that is, particularly in contrast of this emerging mid-market, these larger small businesses, for the lack of a better term, compared to the traditional small business, is the fact that in these scenarios, multiple users is a lot more common. And when you get multiple people touching an accounting system, sometimes you got people that have nothing to do with the accounting functions. You got salespeople giving out quotes. You have warehouse people adjusting inventory levels. You have purchasers requesting, new products, replenishing inventory into the system. We can have estimators in construction companies identifying which expenses and materials are for specific jobs. So in these larger businesses, in these emerging mid-market businesses, you do have tons of people and personalities all touching your operating system. And typically the ownership and the management starts to get a little bit worried about too many hands in the pot, per se. So this is where the consultants come along and try to do two things. One, choose a system in which they can design a permission access structure that will limit the specific users to only the specific functions their job description tells them they can do. Let's call it that. And secondly, we play a lot of psychologists trying to empower the owners and the managers to start letting go of some of the responsibilities and start trusting some of these employees that they didn't even fathom touching the underlying accounting system. But our work of bringing integration with multiple apps, or bringing a core enterprise type system that can create unique permission structures for these users, can really enable this to happen. And all of a sudden, your business looks like a real business with bureaucracy, with permissions, with all the good and the bad that comes from comparing it to larger businesses. But that's the stuff that creates controls and starts giving management confidence to focus on high level things such as customer acquisition, development, expansion, innovation, R&D, instead of having the CEO of the company making sure that their team is not screwing up their bank balances. So many times our role is to kind of insert that level of structure, bring more people into the fold to be working in the system at the same time, and design internal workflows and controls to make sure that people are doing what they're doing. I would say that to me is the most stark difference. When you're transitioning a small business with 3 employees and 1 person touching the books to 10 plus employees and 4 people potentially touching the books.
No, good point. And Jim, again, your experience that you found with unique needs in the mid-market.
Yeah, I mean, to both their points, those are both excellent points they bring up. One thing we see is that upper management and decision makers, they're looking for decision quality data ultimately. and that data has to be timely. And so, what we focus on is taking those different databases that exist out there today, and accounting is just one database in our world, to make those databases integrate and talk to each other so that the data is timely. They're able to do forecasting as opposed to reacting to the past, and having to be able to make decisions. We call it auto mapping the process is what we do. And so we have a really high level process when we begin working with a client to walk them through. Okay, these are the things we're trying to achieve from all these different databases. What do you where do you want us to pull out of each one so that you can make better decisions and have better reporting and be able to make ultimately the right choices for your business. So that's one of the things we see a lot is it's not so much about one particular database or other. All mid-markets, they're more concerned about the business process and how that functions.
I think it's very interesting, kind of to your point, Jim, there, it is very interesting when we go through these exercises. It's a lot of fun, right? So we go into businesses and we kind of say, let's show me what you're doing now, right? So we'll do kind of like a follow me home. Show me how you're running things now. Show me what data is going where now. Why is it going there? And then it's very interesting even to get their audience, their teams talking about, why is this data going there? Why do we need this data? Do I really need this data in this place or not? And so even a lot of times, again, most businesses, they get set up and they get moving on a pathway and they kind of just do whatever the last person did in their role. And so it's helpful even to take a step back and say, hey, what can we do better, right? And outside eyes for that are incredibly helpful. Right? We haven't been in your home to see all the things that are wrong. And so we don't know how it's run on a daily basis, right? So we'll spot those things a lot easier.
And another thing to that point too, Marjorie, is that we also find that a lot of these businesses don't want to change what they're doing. If they have to learn a new process or a whole new system, there's a lot of pushback sometimes to doing that because they know they've been on these systems for so long to get them to where they are that now, the thought of, changing is very dramatic and traumatic for these departments. And so we try to minimize that by keeping them in the space where they're currently comfortable using, but making these databases talk to each other is the key.
I think that a lot of the value that we bring as consultants is mitigating and managing the timing of this change, right? Because when a small business or mid-market client buys a piece of software and reads the manual or calls tech support or uses it, let's call it exactly as designed, many times when they take their current process and the buttons that they're used to pushing and what the new screens look like, they can't make that connection, right? And for them to transform and completely use the software as designed without paying attention to what currently works in their system or what their employees understand to be what works in their system, sometimes it's too much of an abrupt change. So I think some of the good things that the consultants do is they absorb all the feedback from all the employees. They get all the different versions of what things need to be done and why they're done. Many a times we get comments and direct feedback of things that they do that we know right away they're completely useless. They add no value to the process, but they're done because the last person did it that way, and they can't remember, why they were done like that in the first place. And sometimes when we set up consultations or implementations that last, let's say, 6 months, we sometimes try to respect the old a little bit and transition in steps, right? Where maybe we transform one part of the business while keeping the other sort of manual process, Excel spreadsheet part, so the business doesn't completely go into chaos during an implementation. And I think that without a consultant that has seen implementation gone wrong, that has seen it break, that can read between the lines of what all the stakeholders are telling you, they know the business to what they're telling you to, for in their perspective, what is true about their business, and you being able to prioritize that and put it sort of into mini packets of change over time with an end in mind, with a plan in place, with the expectation that change doesn't happen overnight. That's where the consultant, and I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but I am, but this is what we do. This is what makes us different. And this is what complements an ERP implementation. It's not just spending $10,000 in software. It's spending probably the same amount or more in the help, the experience help, to help you walk you through the process. So in mid-market, this is a lot truer than in a smaller business type of environment.
Definitely, and change can be scary, and new workflows can mean that different people are now doing different roles. So it's great that we have solution providers that can guide and be a trusted advisor in that walk. Jim, starting with you, what do you think the biggest opportunities are for QuickBooks solution providers like you to service this growing market?
Well, I mean, opportunities as they exist today, we're finding if you can replicate what you've done with one particular market niche, then you can kind of go to other places that do the same thing. And so franchises are a very big interest for us right now, where you build one integration and you make that work for a particular set of stores, and then you move on and you can brand that out for the rest of the franchise network. So I think there's wonderful opportunities currently what we're seeing within the franchisee space. And so I think that's happening now. And because everybody uses cloud systems, I think it's making it easier for us to make those integrations and connections for those types of businesses.
Got it. And Hector, where have you seen the biggest opportunities?
This might seem a little obvious because in the post-pandemic world, we've all been exposed to it, but the enablement of effective remote work, it's probably the biggest opportunity, right? Not just taking desktop software and hosting it on the cloud, not just moving to cloud-based applications, not just integrating one cloud app with another cloud app. I think it's important to understand all the hardware implementations and the human implementations of aspects of remote work. So me as a consultant, I can go in and help a small business or emerging mid-market business set up everything online to work remotely. And I've configured all the screens. I designed all the processes. I designed all the workflows. I prepared every team member to work remotely. But then something in the dynamic of working remotely, be it the communication, there isn't a good communication strategy, or document management, there isn't a place for people to all store the documents on the right place, or there isn't a good transition of roles, right? Before in the office, you can have John tell Mary, hey, I'm gonna head out for a couple hours to take care of customer problem B. Mary, can you please man the fort, for lack of a better term, on my responsibility for a second? And that this office dynamic, it's temporarily gone away with remote work, and their technologies, right, such as cloud-enabled scanners and communication technologies like Zoom and Slack and Microsoft Teams, and file sharing technologies like even a remote desktop server setup, or Box or Dropbox. So I think a consultant that's really, really good at the accounting portion and the ERP software portion should also consider the fact that moving everybody to a remote setup is going to have other implications. And while you don't need to be the IT person that does that, or the person that takes responsibility over implementing all that, I think that understanding those technologies, understanding the costs, understanding the implementation time, understanding the requirements, and trying to match what you're doing on the accounting ERP side with those other processes are huge opportunities to be holistic consultants per se, not just debits and credits and inventory accuracy and financial statements, just understand the other aspects of enabling remote work. I think that's a huge opportunity as well. The second one, to be more specific on an industry, I think that any business out there that's used to selling in a person-to-person type scenario should be looking at the alternative of e-commerce, and should be looking at the alternative of digitizing the product to be delivered in a digital way, and should be looking on the subscription model of all these companies are like toilet paper, right? That you can subscribe to toilet paper and have, businesses that used to distribute toilet papers to supermarket now deliver toilet paper, directly to your door, and you subscribe, with a fixed monthly fee, and you always get your toilet paper replenishment, and toilet paper is no longer something you worry about. So helping some of these clients transform into these modern ways of delivering the product, of delivering the service, of delivering the experience and the satisfaction, and thinking about the outcomes, not the thing that you sell, not the widget, not the tasks that you do with your hand. What are these businesses doing to prepare for the new generation of transactions? And retail's not going to go away. We know that. In-person experiences are not going to go away completely. We know that. But all businesses should already be planning and preparing to deliver in that way.
Got it. I'm going to remember that toilet paper is a service. So the as service is
Tap, right?
right. And then Marjorie, your thoughts on biggest opportunities here in the mid-market?
Oh gosh. Well, so what we do here at Fourlane, mainly it's how we explain to customers is we help them through change. And this year has been nothing but change, right? People have had to pivot. They've had to sit back and think. And a lot of the times by having their system set up and automated, right, as much as possible, you can't automate everything. Let's be very clear, but as automated as possible allows them to have that freedom and that time to sit back and think when they need to make strategic decisions very quickly. That has been a big part. Also, we've been a remote firm since the very beginning, right? We've always been remote. We have over 50 employees, been growing steadily over the years. And we will not change that mainly because I want to have consultants who are not just my neighbors. If they are very good, I want to be able to hire them wherever they are, right? And I want them to be able to be wherever they are. We had my very first employee was down the street because she did work for a client that I went on site to, which is very rare. But she lives in Ohio now, right? So we had to make adjustments for people like that. But so being a remote firm, some of the opportunities that we see too right now in going through change is also we're able to take advantage of some of the shifts, right? So we've had a lot of employees come on board this year who are former employees of very large corporations. And they wouldn't always feel comfortable making that jump into the mid-market space. Or this, small business. Technically, we're a small business space, even though it doesn't feel like we're a small business. We've been fighting hard over these years. So we've been able to take advantage of some of those people coming from corporations and learning from them too, right? So when you're looking out there at employees, everybody's always struggling to find employees. You're looking at employees, considering taking some of the big business employees on and in-house has allowed us to learn, right, how big business does it too, right? And see what are the parts that we should be pulling from that to teach our clients as they're going through these major changes. Some of the other things that I've seen, I talked about this in one of my blogs recently, but there's been a big shift this year of kids taking over the parents' business. I didn't recognize that at first, but I started, on consulting calls. We started hearing it more and more and more. And the new generation of ownership is very focused on automation. And so we can be taking advantage of that too. And since they weren't the ones who set up the way that always was, right? Just like we were saying earlier, we can take advantage of them wanting to. They don't understand the way it always was. So we can take advantage too of the fact that they want to learn a better way. And they want to show, right, the parents and their generation a better way can be done running the business. So these are some trends and opportunities that I've seen coming out of this year.
No, excellent.
I was just going to say one extra thing on top of Hector's too. With the remote work, because we've been doing it for so long, one of the things that has really helped us a lot is to have, and we've been teaching our clients this too, right? Just as much as management is nervous about what are my workers doing at home, the workers at home are nervous about management understanding that they're actually working from home and not, doing laundry or taking care of their kids who are in the background constantly, right? One of the things that we've done here is we've implemented kind of a metric-based system that allows us on a weekly basis to see growth as in individuals. So it took some time to get there, but it helps a lot. And so we talk to our clients a lot about that too, having task-based, metric-based systems that will allow them to know on both sides, like, hey, I'm doing my work, I got my stuff done. And management's like, hey, you got your stuff done. So that's been really helpful too. And how we're coaching businesses this year, especially.
Wow, excellent points. Thank you, guys. Hector, what specific actions or decisions have you taken to help you grow your business in the mid-market, leveraging QBO Advanced, and enterprise solutions?
Yeah, I would say that without a shadow of a doubt, the best decision I have ever made is to create a library of content and put it out in YouTube. So, what is a library of content? And the best way to describe it is us consultants, accountants, system implementators, we learn something new every client. We learn some sort of new thing, right? Whether it's the client's approach to something or a unique industry of some product or service that you didn't even know it existed, and they're telling you how it works, and then you are thinking of ways to solve the problem. And we solve the problem, we give the client a solution per se. But many times these solutions or these approaches, they stay in our heads. They stay in our own internal database of experience, which is really valuable, and is probably one of the things that makes you the most marketable, is that you know how to do these things. The challenge that I've seen is that if people out there don't know that you know this, it makes it very difficult for you to sell yourself, or at least it requires a longer sales cycle to close the deal. Let's call it that. So what I've done effectively is every time I have some new learning experience, I teach somebody something new, and I don't have already a video explaining that. I take my time at the end of the day, write down my thoughts. I got a little book of all like the content that I plan to create for the next couple of years, and I create a video explaining that process, right? So some sort of workaround in QuickBooks that it wasn't designed to do. Let's put it out there in video. And then what happens is when you make all these thoughts and tutorials public, you get conversations, right? People comment on the videos, they ask other questions. People say, oh, that's interesting. My business is slightly different. I would have taken this approach. And basically creates this snowball learning opportunity for yourself, your team, and it creates huge marketing opportunities because people know that you know. And many times they just need to know that you know so they can just throw money at you for you to solve the problem, right? So creating this video library or this video database has been a blessing from the marketing perspective. But to take it one step further, anytime my current client, one that I don't charge per 5-minute email or whatever, a client that I've engaged and I want to give them every answer to every question they give me, if I have some of these answers already in a video, I'm going to save myself tons of typing time in an email. I'm going to save myself a 10, 20-minute phone conversation for a current client simply by directing them to this database, of a video already recorded. So I think that's been the wisest decision that I've made. And it really happened by accident for the most part, because I was partially inspired by Marjorie, as a matter of fact, and she knows because she was the first person I knew to create a long form, full tutorial on how to do something in QuickBooks. And I think her approach was to sell it at first. And I went to her and I said, hey, can I sell this for you? I have people asking me for stuff. And she's like, no, this is my unique thing, right? I sell it to my clients. This is what makes us different. And I said, well, I guess if I want to be able to sell someone or have a library, I have to build it myself. And she knows, and other people that create content know, this takes a very long time. This takes a huge chunk part of your billable time, and if you're committed to doing this long term, not just do it for a year and then hope that 1 year content it's evergreen forever, which is not the case. You have to continuously be creating new content, updating your video library. You're going to be taking away 20%, 30%, 40% of your billable time for the week. So you got to be able to make up that billable time per se by being able to charge based on your value, not based on your time. So the little time that I have left from my production time of creating content, I want to make sure that if somebody wants to hire me, I'm going to charge enough to make it worth my while to continue to create free content out there, to shoot myself in the foot, as many of my colleagues have told me, hey, you're shooting yourself in the foot because you're giving away the content. And the answer really isn't that, right? So I'm shooting people that create I'm shooting people that do low-level consulting in the foot. I'm shooting them in the foot, but I'm elevating myself as a consultant to position myself as the expert, that it's okay to give away the knowledge, but will charge for the expertise. So being able to then charge for the consulting time, for the one-on-one time, for the implementation time, for the undivided attention, it's a huge advantage. But sometimes you have to sacrifice a little bit and create this brand where you do give away some value up front. And that is basically how I ended up specializing in manufacturing and inventory, right? This kind of happened by accident because I was the only one creating content of showing people how to do bill of materials, how to assemble inventory, how to make adjustments, multiple units of measure, all these manufacturing lingo. I was using it in my videos to show one little piece that I was learning. And then all of a sudden people are like, oh, you're the manufacturing expert. And I started getting a lot more manufacturing clients. This is 5 or 6 years ago. And then I completely fell in love with the industry. And it actually ended up shifting me to focus on the industry. And that's the typical client that I like to serve, the e-commerce, wholesale, and manufacturing sort of inventory heavy clients. And I didn't know this until I started exposing myself, creating content about it, and attracting that type of client. And then I basically chose my niche or my specialization based on the clients that were coming to me from me creating free content out into the world.
So, and I just wanted to add to that. So, and you're completely right. When I started doing the videos, it was exactly the same thing. I wanted to free my energy up. I didn't want to have to teach anybody how to create a check in QuickBooks because, checks, there's not much modification, can't do much to it. So I didn't want to teach anybody that anymore. So we use that as a giveaway to a lot of our enterprise clients as well, use those videos. But in doing the videos, you learn so much. You learn things that you're on the video. And I love the ones that are mine that I am troubleshooting live because that's when you learn the most, right? I went into one the other day that I was doing a QBOA versus enterprise versus an ERP product. And I learned that QBOA, you can do a percentage of allocations in bank feeds based on, you just learn so many things. And because the products, they drop things in products and they don't even us, right? We know a lot. We're very integrated with the enterprise team. And sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh, it does this. That is so cool. So by doing these videos, you get to also really, really, or, going through exercises like this documenting process, you get to really, really learn and become the expert in the software that you're representing.
And to piggyback to that, I think that when you put yourself the teacher hat and you become a teacher, and that word means different things to different people. But when you are not just a consultant that answers questions or asks questions, but a person that's there to transfer knowledge from your experience database and what you know onto the customer, you take tons of pride on transferring the knowledge right or ordering that knowledge in a way that the customer can understand it. So when you put that teacher's hat on, you up your game immediately because you need to kind of step back and say, do I know this well enough? Do I know every single button? Do I know every single potential consequence of this function or this action enough to expose myself to say, I'm the expert at it. I'm going to teach you how to do it and not look like a fool because you only knew 80% of it. So long story short, when you're teaching and creating content, you will automatically become a better consultant. And this is almost instantly. This is almost like a life hack, I would say. So if you can create videos, even if you're not going to put it into YouTube, you create the videos just so you can have somebody else watch it in your team and then critique on your delivery and then catch yourself experimenting with the feature itself while you're teaching it, and go back to the drawing board and make sure you understand it in detail. You become just so much a better consultant from a technical level and also from a communications level.
Yep. And that's really interesting that the paths you guys have both kind of taken on that. Jim, what about you on that front?
Yeah, I mean, I'll never be a YouTube star like Hector. I just admire what he's done so much. I mean, he's just, really taken that and run with it. And it's been amazing to watch the transformation. So, for us internally, I mean, we have a lot of internal processes that guide our decision making. And what we've learned is to use some of the things that we learned from our current projects or our past projects, is to implement training programs and things like that for our internal staff, as well as our clients. And then what we're next rolling out is an affiliate partner program, so that we can take our platform and push it out to the consultant market, so they can push it out to the CPAs, the accountants, the folks that want to do this work and can see the need in this work. I think, this is a upcoming feature set for our platform. So I think that's going to be the big thing that will kind of transform what we do today internally, because we can't do all the mid-market integrations. There's just too many out there. So frankly, the idea is to, make this a platform that others can use.
One thing I would love to add, for the people that are listening to this and saying, no, I don't want to create videos. I don't want to. I'm not a video person. Let's just say that, or I'm not a podcast person. I'm not a new media person, but I could write. I think that writing down some of the questionnaires of the common conversations you have with clients, and sending these clients or these prospects to read that first before they come talk to you, it's a huge practice builder. Because I'll give you an example, and I think that both Marjorie and Jim will agree with me. When a client comes to you and says, hey, I'm doing e-commerce now, I want to integrate my QuickBooks with e-commerce, this is not a simple conversation. There's a lot of moving parts, right? What does integrate mean? What does e-commerce mean, right? Because e-commerce, Amazon is not the same thing as e-commerce, Shopify, or custom shopping cart, right? So we need to have these long conversations with clients to say, okay, let's define, where do you sell? Which are the channels? And you kind of give them some examples, and which channels are you looking into selling? Okay, what does integration mean? Does it mean 100% automated? Does it mean semi-automated? Are there third parties involved, such as third-party warehousing, that sort of intersect between the sales process and the fulfillment process, and it can modify how you enter stuff in your accounting system? Do you manage inventory in-house? How do you do fulfillment and shipment? Or how do you want to do fulfillment and shipment? So to have a quick 10-minute conversation about how we can potentially help somebody with e-commerce is practically impossible. So you have to move every single e-commerce inquiry to a 2-hour consultative diagnosis type of call. And in many cases, customers don't want to pay for this. And you could argue that maybe it's good that you can, not deal with the customers that don't want to pay for it. But there are customers that would pay for it if they knew that you understood that you could help them. So in many cases, all you have to do is write a simple article explaining, look, you want to integrate e-commerce to QuickBooks? These are all the things you have to think about, and break them down, right? We got inventory management, we got fulfillment, we got the different channels, we got what platform are you using, how are you delivering? This is just one example. And you type it all on an article, you post it on your website. And when the customers come to you and says, hey, I would love to talk to you about e-commerce integration, you say, here's some homework for you. I need you to read this. There's 10 questions at the bottom of that article. Now that you understand the context and all the implications, I want you to email me your answers to all those 10 questions. Then we can talk. Now, what that will do is, number one, it will steer away all the tire kickers that are going to waste your time anyway. And two, it gets your potential customers in a higher level conversation. So if you do have a limited amount of time you can dedicate to prospects or potential clients, you can discuss the stuff that you want to discuss, not what they think you need to discuss, right? Because people have their own world, their own concept in their mind, in their world of what integration looks like. People have their own concept in their mind of what a barcode scanner does. Like people have all these fantasies about what a barcode scanner can do, right? So if you don't write an article explaining, look, these are all the things that it can do, this is what it doesn't do, this is what people ask me to do, these are the potential workarounds we can do, and have people read it first and then realize that, yeah, a barcode, it's a good way to think about solving the problem, or it's not. When you go talk to them, the conversation is a much higher level. So you don't have to do videos to create this level of library per se, to put your clients in that different level, higher level of conversation. You can simply do this by documenting it and making it public to the world. Don't be afraid of making these things public to the world. You will attract more people like-minded and people that are attracted to the way you explain things.
And I just wanted to feed off of that. So for us, it's a little bit different. We have a lot of content out there, obviously, too, but for us, it's process, right? So we have a very defined onboarding process with customers. We'll do a consultation. We'll ask them some questions, like you said, build their ability to know that we can help them. Mostly this is around conversion. A lot of times this is around conversion, right? We can help you. We've done this before. And so building that confidence from the very beginning. And then it's not just having them build their confidence, but it's also getting themselves aligned. That's one of the hardest things in customer journey when you're going through change, is when they say, right, somebody on their staff says, I want a barcode scanner, and somebody else on their staff thinks that it means something different. They don't, even internally, they're not aligned. So we have questions, we do a consultation, we send them home with some homework as well. And then we come back and we try to get them aligned, get the right people on the phone, right? And we ask them these questions. We tell them this up front. We're going to ask you these questions probably 3 to 4 times, because every single time you're going to provide us a different answer. And we need to try to get from all we're trying to get during this journey of in the mid-market space of improving their business processes is we're trying to get to the root, right? What are you trying to achieve? And you're going to hear something different. So after they answer the question 2 or 3 times, then we start to get alignment on their team towards what their goals actually are. And then we can start to get into just, design and implementation and actually moving data and things like that. So yeah, definitely similar pathways, but different ways.
Yep. No, thank you. Thank you for that. We're definitely living in some interesting times where customers are looking for guidance. How can they remain productive? How can they remain profitable? So this is our last question. I'll start with you, Marjorie. We just ended with you. But what are the most interesting trends and opportunities this year and beyond in this space? And if you have any customer stories, that'd be great. I know we touched upon a few, but it'd be great to hear your thoughts on that.
I started this business in 2008, right? So economic downturn. And what I saw back then, and why I think we were out of the gate, just able to grow tremendously, was we recognized that people were making changes, right? And so by recognizing that and saying, okay, we're going to take on data migration, we're going to take on conversion, we're going to take on teaching people that the QuickBooks space is not just small business. It is for mid-market businesses. They're businesses that we have kept in QuickBooks Enterprise far longer than they ever should have, because we do things like every couple of years, right? In other products, they have very solid ways of kind of condensing down your data. In QuickBooks, we have to come up with a plan on how we're going to condense the data. How are we going to deal with historical data? Do we need the details? Can we simplify them? Can we have historical files where we can combine things together, right? How are we going to deal with our data? And so we've kept these clients, either taught these clients that, hey, you don't have to, like ERP can include QuickBooks, right? ERP is connecting system. QuickBooks can be part of one of those systems as long as we have a plan and we're utilizing the software, because that's the other side, right? A lot of people just tend to try to use it as a checkbook only, but it does so many things. So we have now, right, going through change again. People didn't know what was going to happen when the pandemic first hit and froze, right? Tried to figure out where they could save money. Most businesses did. And a big part of that was recognizing maybe they're overpaying in their software, and they can look at options that can help them get through the next 3, 4, 5 years. And it can be in the QuickBooks space, which will make their staff happy because QuickBooks is fun to use and not like bang your head against the wall all the time. And also will save them some money in the checkbook too. So yeah, get out of that other software and come take a look.
Great. Hector, your thoughts?
Yeah, so I agree with everything Marjorie said. So I'll give you what I think is the biggest sort of threat and opportunity to our space, to the mid-market or small business accounting consulting space. And it comes from what other industries are doing, which is the appification of services, right? I know that's not a word, but it will be at some point. So the appification of services, I think, is where the new stream of customers are going to be coming into the future. New entrepreneurs, new small business owners are used to grabbing a phone, launching an app, pressing 3 buttons, and then 30 minutes later, their food gets delivered into their house, right? So what you're used to doing in other ways, like calling the service and putting your order in and giving your credit card over the phone, has been appified with systems like Grubhub and Uber Eats, right? I'm thinking that our industry could be, let's call it, attacked by outsiders that are coming in and saying, this is what the new accounting consultant experience looks like. You open up a phone, you open an app, you select 3 things, you toggle 3 things, press a button, and an hour later, a customized financial statement arrives in your email. Like, I don't know what it looks like. I have no idea what it looks like. I don't know how they will charge. I don't know who is going to be doing this. But one thing I guarantee you is that in the very near future, our competition will be appification of it, and also subscriptionizing of it, right? I know that's also not a word, but it's, taking away here, I'll pay you for this project and that's it. So it's no longer, I'm going to hire you to implement my QuickBooks. Rather, I'm going to pay this app $100 a month to make sure I have a fully functional integrated QuickBooks. So it's this transformation of no longer dealing with one consultant the whole time and a very one-to-one, look each other at the eyes type of service. And this could still happen sort of in the interim, but I think the delivery method, the ordering method, and the transactioning method will be transformed to this appification, mobile phone, instant gratification, right? Get your answers or your results or your service within an hour or so. So we need to look into what that's going to look like before we have somebody outside our industry, change it on to us, right? That's what happened to the taxi industry, right? The Uber weren't old school taxi drivers that wanted to change the industry. They saw the opportunity and they said, we're going to appify this service. We're going to digitize the experience. You still need a physical vehicle to move the human being from one place to the other. You still need the consultant to ask questions, implement, and get the systems working. That's not going to change, but it's the delivery method, the way that people pay, the expectation of how people order and how people get their product delivered. I think that might be more beyond 2021, but I don't think it's really, really far away. So that's the biggest opportunity that we need to look after.
Interesting. Yeah. And Jim, from your side.
Yeah, I mean, just listening to Hector, I'm like, I guess I'm in the right spot, because I think that's kind of what our focus is to appify the workflow process. I mean, I think about the evolution of the IT department. Like I said, I've been back when the mainframe systems used to run the business world, and you had to actually go to the IT department to request changes in your data that you wanted to get out of that. When the PC became prevalent in all the desktops, and people started having that data on their desktop, and that was where the power went. That was a good time. I think it changed a lot of folks' career paths. I know it did mine. And so, now we're kind of back into this, almost come full circle, where the IT department is the cloud. And then we have all this data sitting up there. And now if we want to make a change, or if we want to do some sort of different workflow or get data from different databases, I think, that's back to where, it's a little harder to request that, because it's, it has to be implemented based on need. And so I think giving the look at the future, I think the future will be finding platforms that will allow you to integrate and talk to this data easily and appify it, as Hector said, so that you can get this data out without having to request information from the IT department. land like we used to. So I'm really excited about the future, actually, just because of the way we're going to be working with clients in the future with this sort of technology that we've created.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you all for an interesting discussion on the customer journey in the mid-market space. I appreciate all your input. Very, very interesting and very kind of different, but almost similar ways in how you service the customer. So thank you again. And thank you all for attending our panel.